Hello there, Qckslvrslash here today, and today we have a video courtesy of Kelorn driving the Tier 7 premium British cruiser, the Belfast. Now, a lot of people really picked this ship out as being one of the strongest choices for ranked, and it is a very strong ship in the right situations, but it has a couple weaknesses, and the big one compared to, its sister ship at Tier 7 from the Brits, the Fiji, is it loses the torpedoes and the repair party, which means this ship isn't nearly kind of as capable of just taking a beating as the Fiji. Both have very thin armor and are going to take big hits. The difference is the Fiji can recover a lot of that health. The Belfast, you're stuck with whatever hit points you've got. So that puts the Belfast at a disadvantage. It means you have to be very careful, which kind of fights against its radar. At 8.5 kilometers, or technically 8.49, the radar is very useful. You can sit in smoke, pop the radar, and attack things. But you have to be 8.5 kilometers away from things. So that can put you in a tough situation, and I can't count the number of times I've seen the two fleets kind of come together, a Belfast on each team pops its radar, and both end up getting destroyed. It's just going to happen. Now personally, most of my ship's experience was in destroyers. It's just what I feel I am most capable in, and it's one of the classes of ships that I feel you have the best opportunity to make a long-term difference in the game. You can get caps early, you can throw torpedoes to deny areas, you can use the torpedoes to attack people at close range. If someone's pushing around a corner at them, you can delete them. In the right destroyers, you can stealth fire, so if needed, late game, one-on-one, you can just open distance and shoot without being able to be shot back. Now it is worth noting that Wargaming has come out and said open ocean Invisifire is on the list of things to go. It wasn't an intended feature of the game, so expect that to change with time, but for now, that's the way things are. One of the other big things I would say about ranked play is if you find yourself low on health, you have to play very cautiously. Fall back, play smart, go invisible, pick and choose your opportunities. Because dead, you're no use to your team, you've got no more guns, but worst of all, a quick hit of the tab button shows you that, there's up to 150 point swing, potentially, involved if you're a CV, less if you're a destroyer or a cruiser, but it still really affects the outcome of the game. So if you've got 100 hit points left, run, keep yourself alive, and it'll keep your team in the game, or at least keep them from being at a disadvantage. Because so often in a ranked battle what happens is both teams get a cap. Normally pretty much what happens. And then it's just the first team to get a kill. Whichever team that is can now sit back in a defensive position because the enemy team has to be the aggressor. Now on the flip side of that, if your team's ahead on points, don't be the aggressor. I've said it before in other situations, patience is one of the key skills you have to learn in this game. It's so easy to want to get greedy and go charging out for damage or a kill, when that doesn't help you. It gets you hurt, most of the time killed, and puts your team at a disadvantage. So be patient. Let them make their move, and when they do, be ready to knock them flat on their asses. So off the start here, you can see Kelorn's team hasn't gotten any of the caps, which is a little weird on Fault Line, and I've seen it happen once in my time or in my games, and the reason is it's a very small map. It's normally very hard for someone to take the cap under the direction the team pushed, but the reason it worked in this case is the team from the south, they all went A. Kelorn's team, they all went A. So it was the team who had the more willing destroyer who got it. Meanwhile, over at B, one of the enemy cruisers kind of saw what was happening and just snuck in, and there was nothing to shoot him there. So that's kind of one of the only ways that happens. The other way is if you're in one of those matches with a ton of destroyers, well, then it can happen. I'll actually speak to that now. This is probably the first battleship heavy match I've ever seen in ranked. I know I certainly didn't run it into any myself. 4 BBs on each team, 2 cruisers, and 1 destroyer. And, well, there's the enemy destroyer inside 5 kilometers. Kelorn still has his radar. You'll notice he didn't just waste it at the start, got to the cap, okay, I'll hit radar. If you are playing one of the ships with radar, that consumable is worth so much to your team, and it isn't just about when you have shots. You need to make sure everyone else on your team has shots at what you might potentially spot. So many times I've seen a radar popped when the whole team is in a position where they're not going to be able to shoot, even if something is detected. So the radar just becomes wasted. Now unfortunately that Shiratsu does get away, but Kelorn manages to bridge the gap and looks to be trying to putting himself into a bit of a flanking position. You can see that enemy Gneisno's name, Hetzeres, clearly loves probably one of the trolliest tanks in World of Tanks, at least at tier 4. God, I miss the Hetzer. I should play some more tanks sometime. But the big thing I'm noticing right now is, yes, Kelorn's team, their destroyer is trying to catch something, but their destroyer is off alone. And as a DD, and as someone who plays DDs a lot, you really can't go alone. Because if you get detected and don't have an out, you're screwed. And that Akatsuki doesn't have a way to fight off a Fiji, should it get detected. And, well, Kelorn's friendly Belfast just ate a torpedo, and that really puts them down. They're almost 400 points down now. Any second here they will be officially over 400 points down. And that's not a good place to be in any match. It's even harder in ranked. Because all I'm thinking now, if I were the enemy team, is these guys have to make a bold move. They have to push out and take these caps, because if they don't, they're not winning on kills. There's times where you can afford not to have the caps because you're actively getting enough damage in and you're getting the kills in that the points don't really matter. But in a situation like this, where it's a standoff, the enemy team's sitting way back, this is the type of match where having the caps matters. And those are the times where you really have to make that decision, because not every match does the same thing matter, There's somewhere getting an early cap or 2 wins the game. There's other where, you drive in, sure you get it, you die, and ultimately your team ends up down too many ships for the points you're generating to matter anyways. So now Kelorn utilizes one of the Belfast strengths, and that is pop and smoke and the radar. Now the radar is to detect that Shiratsu, and in this case he doesn't have shots, but a friendly did, and it means that Shiratsu is dead. It also means that Shiratsu couldn't push out from behind the island. So the radar isn't always an offensive tool. Sometimes it can be used just to hold the enemy back, because that DD comes out, then he's a target. But either way, he's dead, and Kelorn's team is starting to claw back. They've evened the cap points up, they've got a kill, so they're only, well, they're still 400 points down, let's be honest, but at least they're not running a deficit now. Both Kelorn's team and the enemy team are picking up 9 points every 10 seconds? Yeah, 9 every 10. But it's equal. So the next wall they're going to run into is just the point total. That 1,000 point wall is going to prove a problem. Because some quick math, 9 points every 10 seconds, so every 1 minute 40 seconds, that's 100 points. That means the kind of 200 left to go only means there's about 3 minutes 20 seconds or so left of this match, despite 10 minutes being on the clock. So that's math you need to be able to do in your head. And I've been on a couple teams where the team's been like, we've lost. And you just have to be like, no. Like, look at the points, look at what the caps are doing. We actually win. You know, you can do the math in your head. Even if you're down, if you get both caps, you can come back on points alone. Conversely, if you're the sole survivor, you know, be able to do that math in your head and figure out, hey, if I just run away right now, even if the enemy team takes the caps, are they able to get enough points before the clock runs out to beat me? Sometimes the answer is yes, and then you have to make a move. Sometimes it's no. So right here, you'll notice Kelorn kind of doing the typical thing. He backed up behind the edge of land just to make sure if anything had shots at him, the only thing that would is that enemy Genesi. And finally the Gneiss now is turning his guns, looks straight at Kelorn. You know, identifying the cruiser, often a big target, so Kelorn was already well ahead of that, engines ahead, to get behind another piece of hard cover. And so often, that's a mistake people make. They back behind that island and they're happy to sit there because they're putting damage out, they're not getting shot at actively there. They don't make the read of where do I need to move to next to make sure I'm still safe 10 seconds now, 15 seconds from now. And a lot of that comes from reading the map. And you can see these Gneiss now, they went in close, both launched their torpedoes it looks like. And they need this kill. And if that enemy gets the ram, which he almost does though, it looks like he was more interested in getting torpedoes off at Kelorn than ramming that Scharnhorst. If that enemy ship had gotten the ram, they're still, you know, over 800 points coming in on game's end. By missing that, going for a pointless torpedo run on Kelorn, he actually really just threw away 100 points for his team. Now, maybe the ram wasn't there. Maybe by the time he realized that, he couldn't, but that's just another thing to think about. In these small, you know, format games, kind of like Fight Night that I do with my clan, you really have to be in the mindset that no matter what, I'm not dying without sinking something. So if you find yourself in untenable situations, lock your guns onto one target, start shooting them while you prepare to ram something else. That way you put good damage out and you still walk away with a kill and you've hurt something else. A lot of times people go for the ram on a target they're actively shooting, and they'll have worked its health down so much that it doesn't end up mattering. And wow, 3 citadels there. Once again, just a really well-read play. Kelorn saw the smoke puffs coming from that Fiji. I think the Fiji thought he was going to be cute and poke around the corner and start doing some free damage. Kelorn said, nope, loaded the AP, popped the radar, and ended him in one shot. So now things are looking a little bit better. They're still, you know, 270 points down, but they're about to get the second cap, which means 18 points every 10 seconds that they're closing. They're ahead in kills, and you know, it's not too hard to chase down what's left on the enemy. A Nagato and a Miyoko are not the most flexible ships. The Nagato just doesn't have the speed that, say, a Scharnhorst or Gneiss now would have. And the Miyoko is a great harassing ship. It's a great flanking ship, but it's not so great at getting in close and dirty. And it's one of the reasons I choose not to drive it. I didn't think it would be that strong a ship this season. There are a couple people who are great captains in their Miyokos and their ARP Miyokos and Neon Ships of the Night. But they rely on being able, just like the Norseman is, shooting from a distance. And, you know, if Norseman is allowed to do that for a while, yeah, he'll kill that Scharnhorst. But where he's not going to have the strength is if he needs to get in close. So Kelorn does the obvious thing, slows up, waits to pop his smoke. He's got his hydroactive, he knows the torpedoes are missing him, and he's relying on his friendly Akatsuki for spotting. Unfortunately, the Akatsuki decided, I'm going to charge in, launch peds, and get detected. So this is another point where, me being a destroyer, I get frustrated seeing this. Your role in a destroyer so often is to provide spotting. Your detection allows you to, run around without worry, spotting the enemy ships. Now fortunately, the friendly Scharnhorst got his plane in the air, and that's detecting the Nagato. But really, this Akatsuki could have just driven circles back here, safely spotted, and got some damage out. Now, unfortunately, that plane's not up forever, and Kelorn was forced to drive out of his smoke to do the detecting for himself. And it does suck to see a destroyer do that. The Japanese destroyers, they're long-range assassins. Keep at range, stay well outside detection, and live. Now, he gets the kill there, but that kill is only made possible because Kelorn came out and was spotting through that gap just south of the smoke. But now we're just down to one enemy Myoko. The points are almost even, and they'll continue to close. So this one should be in the bag. And Kelorn's had a great game. 3 kills, almost 73,000 damage, kind of reinforcing my point when I had my Flint game that it feels like you really do have to have a very strong game to have a chance at winning. If Kelorn had an average game, did kind of just over his hit points, so about 40,000 hit points in damage and 1 or 2 kills, this game would already have been over. But thankfully he had a very strong game, and there's not much else to say. That Myoko has no means to go stealth or anything. Hopefully this Akatsuki just stays outside, does the detecting, because Kelorn's about to have another smoke up, and if he can get this smoke off, that pretty much spells it. There it is. He's already going slow. 2 reasons probably. Didn't want to come out past that edge of the land till it was ready, but also guarantees he stays inside his smoke. And this Myoko is just free pickings. You can see the Akatsuki over his shoulder doing a good job staying outside of his smoke, for now at least, allowing him to detect that Myoko. And that Miyoko's not even running camo. Who? Why? Why would you not take every competitive advantage you can get in ranked? That really surprises me. Well, I guess, it happens everywhere. You'd hope in ranked that it's something everyone would just do, because that percentage chance, is an increase. Either way, he's dead, so let's pop to the post-battle.
Enemy cruiser sunk.
All told, a solid game by Kelorn. 518,000 credits, 6,500 experience, or almost 6,500. Just shy of 95,000 damage, 4 kills, couple citadel, 3 citadels, 7 fires, and a lot of cap defenses. And those matter because delaying caps gives you the points, and it helped in this case them slowly come back from a 400 point deficit. And that was the big thing. By allowing the enemy team to have both so early, without getting any kills for it, it put them in a position they had to make a push. And, well, thankfully, Kelorn was able to put out the damage, get the kills, 2,110 base experience, top of the team by a pretty healthy margin. And you can see the rest of the guys who kind of fill in the gap, and that other Belfast getting deleted so early still managed to not be bottom of the team. And when you look at the damage, like huge chunks of damage to a number of different ships. And that matters. Consider Kelorn's ship has 35,000 hit points. That starts to put in perspective the amount of damage. He's getting over half on a couple of these vessels. And that's why they were able to come back. And all told, end of the day, 404,000 credits in the pocket, 6,400 experience, more for the captain. More importantly, got that star in the ranked battle. Thank you very much, Kelorn, for sending this in. For anyone who doesn't know, Kelorn actually runs a weekly podcast. This week, I believe they might actually have the Mighty Jingles board as one of the guests. It's going to be linked in the description. He's a fellow OP member. It's a good time to listen. I remember one of the first I listened to was when him and Earl Grey actually got together and talked about British battleships and the potential options and all the history there. And it's really intriguing to listen to. A lot of research went into it. So rather than the normal plug, please go check that out, guys. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys tomorrow.